Greetings, my name is Brian. Thought I would share with you today how to build a cross such as this. The cross is designed several different ways. One aspect uses a lapel pin that can be put on a suit lapel or a shirt, worn on a dress, whatever you like. I've been asked why I would like to build a cross in the remembrance that it has for our Lord and Savior Jesus. But I like to remind people that our cross is empty because our Father is risen, and I'm thankful for that. And this just shows that sign of remembrance for Calvary and what was done for each of us should we choose it. I'm not original to the build of these crosses. The first one I received was from the Southwest Virginia Walk to Emmaus over a decade ago, of which I'm very thankful. The cross was part of what was called agape, which we know as God's love, and this was demonstrated by those within the community and were given to pilgrims on the walk. Over the years, I estimate I've built many hundred, if not thousands, of these crosses. Currently, these crosses are available sporadically at Wytheville's smallest church, where those are given away. Just would like to make a demonstration. I've been asked about how to make them, and so that's what we'll be doing here today. I'm going to go over the materials that you would need to do it in the fashion that I do it. You can change what you do however you'd like to, if you would like to redesign your cross in a special way. To begin with, what you'll need is essentially cut masonry nails that are hardened and finished. You want to be careful with your nails that you get some good, clear, shiny nails. Some of the cut masonry nails are rusted if they've been in storage for a while and been in humidity. Typically, you cannot get the nails you need from Lowe's. You'll have to go to a specialized hardware, maybe Ace Hardware, and the typical size that I'm going to be building for us today in this fashion is size 4D, which is 1.5 inches, and then size 6D, which is 2 inch. But look at your nails before you buy them. A box is typically about $5, and that'll be the first thing that you want to get. We're putting the crosses together with a 2-part epoxy. I use a 5-minute dry epoxy. This is Loctite, and you want to get the translucent colors so it doesn't show up on the cross. And you don't want to use too much at a time, because most of the time I'll make about 100 crosses at a time, anywhere from 50 to 100 crosses. And if you mix too much of a batch, the epoxy will dry on you too fast before you can get the parts put together. So you don't want to use much of that at a time. You'll need 2 different tools. You'll need some flat pliers we're going to do some twisting with, and then some precision cutters because you're going to do some precision cutting. For the cross, once it's epoxied, for our tie braid here in the middle, I've made them with silver, copper, green, and black. The size copper that works the best is about 24 gauge. Of course, you can use a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner. A little bit thinner tends to bend a little bit easier. But this again is something you can get at Walmart in the arts section. The other thing you can get at Walmart is your lapel pin. You want to get the small ones. You don't want big, they'll stick out from the back, but the small lapel pins are available from Walmart. You can get 100 for $2 or $3. They're not overly expensive. You're going to need a little mixing container and alcohol. we'll discuss why you're going to need that just in a little bit. When I'm done with the crosses, I put them in a bag. You can get this bag at Walmart. A bag of 100 of them for about $1 is what I put the crosses in. And then I take a hole punch the bag, and they hang where I give these out at Wytheville's smallest church. You don't have to do that, but that's what I'm doing. This is a sample of the green, and it's a very flexible 24 gauge, and that's again for that centerpiece. And you'll need something for your little mixing bowl for the epoxy, the 2-part epoxy, to mix that in. And then I use a nail to apply. You know, you're only going to put a wee little bit at a time, so I just use a nail to apply. One other thing you're going to need is a clear glaze. I'm using Krylon here. Upon the completion of your cross, what I like to do is take the crosses and put them in a container, spray both sides. The Krylon is a quick dry, so you'll spray the front of them. Don't spray too heavy, or of course it'll run. Let that dry, and then flip the crosses, spray a light coating on, and let that dry. And of course you want to do this part outdoors. You don't want to do that in the house. Now, what I do for when I build the crosses, you can use one of two things. You want to have plenty of room. This is really a 2-part project. The first thing that you're going to do is put the crosses together with the epoxy in a specific manner, and then you're going to let that dry overnight. Then the next day you come back and do the center braid and do the epoxy after that. This is a good project if it's raining or snowing and you're going to be indoors anyway. That's when I like to do it. But I'll typically make a large batch at one time and save those in the plastic bags for future use. So that's our materials list. That's the majority of what you're going to need besides rags and towels. And we'll get started here just in a minute in building our first set of crosses, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, we're back at it and we're ready to start building our cross. The first thing I did before we started the shoot here was to clean the nails, all of your nails. What I did, you take your plastic container, put the nails in the container, just take some regular 70% alcohol, rubbing alcohol, put it in with the crosses, swish it around, and I put the alcohol back in the container. You can see where it's dirty there. You want to get the crosses clean, the nails clean, because if you don't, your epoxy won't stick so good. You're going to make a mess on your hands, and then when we put the clear glaze on, it won't stay as well. So swish them around, put your alcohol back into the container. And what I did to speed up the process today, I put them on paper towels and took a hair dryer and dried the nails so that we could move forward with our operation today. So again, we take one of the crosses that I've already built, and we're going to use that as our design to see how we put these together each time. We take our 2-part epoxy. Again, as I said, you don't want to overmix too much of a batch at first, else it'll start drying up on you before you get your crosses done. So before I mix that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and lay out what I have. The 4D is on the top horizontal piece, the 6D is vertical piece, the longer piece. What we want is our short piece first. We're going to lay those out in a fashion. I'm just going to go ahead for demonstration here and make Maybe we'll make 12 of these so you can have an understanding of what I'm trying to do. Again, we're doing this on the parchment paper. Sometimes I do it on aluminum foil. I thought you might be able to see it easier on the parchment paper. As we lay these 12 out, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Like I said, I'll make 50 up to 100 at a time. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So the first piece we do is take our 4D, lay it down in a horizontal fashion. And then what I'm going to do from here is go ahead and mix my epoxy. There's 2 parts. You want to, in this one, you pretty much want to get equal amounts of the hardener and the glue. Don't overdo it. You want to take your nail, mix that up. The epoxy, the more hardener you put in, the faster it's going to dry. So what I'm going to do here is make my mixture. Then I only want a wee drop right in the middle. You don't want it to run down over the sides. It doesn't take much. I mean, you have to have it on there, but you don't want to overdo it or it'll run down over the sides. You want as little of the epoxy showing on a finished product as what you can. Be focused on staying the center of the 4D masonry nail. You want to stay right in the middle or your cross is going to look unbalanced. Of course, if it's warmer where you are, you're going to dry faster, and if it's cooler, you're going to dry a little bit slower. So take that into consideration when you mix your epoxy. This epoxy I got from Lowe's, but just like I said, a 2-part epoxy. Okay, so we have our 4D horizontal down. Now we're going to take our 6D and position that at about the 2/3 mark. When you put this on, you don't want to press it. You want to lay it. If you press it, you're squeezing the epoxy out from the sides, so you won't have as much holding it. So just lay your 6D on top of the 4D at about the 2/3 position. If you're considering building these, I know that maybe the Lord put it on your heart. We need a daily reminder. I know a lot of people that will have these in their car, will have them on their shirt. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Some people will just have them with their Bible or where they sit as a reminder. You don't have to have the lapel pin on it. You could stop with building the cross, everything but the lapel pin. And then you could put a string on it and hang it from somewhere if that's what you wanted to do. But today we're going to use the lapel pin. So I'm going to get those ready. Now what we're going to do, we're ready to move forward. I still have good fluidity to my epoxy. So as you can see, the lapel pin is on the back here. This mark with the epoxy is going to be a little bit longer. It's not just a dot like we did with the nails. We're going to kind of come on down almost the length of what the back of the lapel pin is. Again, you want to be careful that to get enough that it's slightly puddled, but not enough that it's going to roll down over the sides. Use the center, the 4D horizontal piece. You want to make that the center mark for your lapel pin. So it'll be right center of it. You don't want the lapel pin up too high or down too low. Bit of a process here, but well worth it. Okay, so I've made my position there. Of course, you want to turn it the correct way. You want to have it to where the pin itself is facing down to the bottom of the cross. So you want to position all those the same. Same thing again. All you want to do is lay that. Position everything so you make sure you're not over the sides. You're not going to have to be in too big of a hurry, but you don't want to waste time either. It's not a good time for a lunch break. Once you start with the epoxy, you want to go and finish this whole process before you stop. You may think of it as this time of year, if I get this out in time, this would be a good Christmas present. Maybe your Sunday school class, definitely your pastor, his family, maybe for family, friends, just as an unashamed reminder of what was done for each of us. Gives you something to think about when you're in the car alone or where you read your Bible alone. Gives you a little something to think about. You know, we're very privileged in this country. No matter what you see on the media or what's going on around us, we're very blessed. And we need to recognize that and appreciate that. When I pray, I often think about praying about the things that we so much take for granted. Birth of a baby, our next breath of air, or the next meal that we eat. There we are. This is the first step of the process. This is as far as we can go until this dries, and from there we'll go to the center braid here as soon as these are dried, and proceed on with the building of our crosses. Okay, here we go, part 3. We're ready to move forward now. I went ahead, we had 12 crosses, I went ahead and made 48 so that I can have a good amount to work with here. Right now we have the bare cross, just with the lapel pin on the back. We're ready to put the center braid in the center of the cross. This part's where it really stands out. Again, we're using the 24 gauge wire. You can use the copper, green, black, silver. They all look good. You want to take your lapel pin and open it up, get the pin itself up out of your way while you're working. And what you're going to do is take about an inch, give yourself something to work with, put that to the right side and behind the cross. We're going to make about 2 wraps. So we're going to wrap down, if you can see it there, twice. Then on the back, as soon as we did that, we're going to go straight across and over, and then up the other side twice, such as this. I think you can see it there, the front of the braid. Now as we've wrapped that around, a little bit of practice, you just want to cross that twice. Take your precision cutters, giving yourself a little bit to work with there. Cut that wire off. Now you have the two pieces sticking out of the back. What you want to do here is you want to get this tight, but not over tight. The 24 gauge wire will break on you if you get it too tight. Take your flathead pliers, put that on the two wires, and twist that. Twist down close. I'm less than 1/8 of an inch away from the cross, but don't overdo it. If you overdo it, you're going to break it, and it just takes a little bit of practice. So now in the back, I have twisted the wires. I have a good cross in the front. You want to make sure that it looks good and tidy there. Then what you're going to do is cut off, leave about 1/8 of an inch of the twisted wire. Cut the rest of it off. Be careful with what remains. I don't know if you have a little pup running around the house or something, but you definitely don't want them swallowing that. So you want to take those remnants and have somewhere that you can gather those, that you can dispose of those properly later. Then the twisted part that remains, you're simply going to push that up into the crevice of the lapel pin, mashing it down flat against the sides of it. And what you want to do is, when you're done and you feel like you have it in there pretty good, take your finger and rub it down the side and where the copper folds over. You don't want that to be able to catch your finger. If it's catching your finger, reposition it a little bit. Sometimes the twisted part needs to be pushed under the copper wire or the lapel pin a little bit better, but you want to make sure you have a smooth surface there. You don't want anybody to stick their finger with that. Make sure that's smooth. So now you have your cross ready to go. This one's finished. We're to the point now that when you go through and get all your crosses done and your different colors on, or your single color, whatever it is, now's the time that you're going to take those crosses and they're ready to coat. You want to do this, of course, like I said, outside. Take your crosses and lay them in a dish, on a pan, somewhere that's just fairly clean. Lay them out. Take your clear coat. This is called triple thick crystal clear glaze. Got this at Walmart, I think. This one's from Krylon, but just a clear coat is what you're after, just to make sure it adheres to metal. Spray a very thin coat on. Don't soak it. If you do, it's going to run. Thin coat, and then depending on how particular you are, let that dry. It's a quick dry. And come back in 10 or 15 minutes. If you want to, put another coat on it. Let that dry. Then you're going to come back, turn it over. This time you're going to do the same thing on the back. Spray your lapel pin. You want to spray the whole thing, just a very light coat. Let that dry 10 or 15 minutes and come back and give it a finish coat after that if you'd like to. Then your cross is ready to go. Once you're done with it, like I said, I like to put it in a plastic bag to keep it protected and safe. And then you have your cross ready to make a great Christmas present, make a great present to that new Christian, maybe after a baptism or a new member in the church. It's welcoming. Just remember, our cross is empty and our Savior is risen. So hope you've enjoyed this. Go on an adventure of your own. Design it and modify it as you see fit. And just remember what Calvary is, what was done there for you and I, and Godspeed, my friend.